Hi, and welcome to the Global Flow Summit. I'm so excited to be back again with Lauren Hayes, and we are just going to have the most fun conversation today. Lauren, it's going to be amazing, right? So Lauren reached out to me a few weeks ago and was just like, I want to support awesome women in Australia doing awesome things. And I was like, I want to have a conversation with you. And that conversation has brought us to this conversation, which I love. But just because we've had fun conversations, I also want to just introduce her formally so as you know exactly who you're dealing with and why you should watch the rest of this interview, because she's awesome. So Lauren, as a coach, she's known as the Velvet Sledgehammer, which I love. She doesn't pull punches, and it shows in the results of her clients. She is the creator of the Moxie Lady program, an online program created for women who want to live an epic life. Lauren works with private clients all over the world to get crystal clear on what they want to design, design a map to get there, and most of all, build a mindset to make sure the dreams become a reality. So if you're after clarity, energy, and accountability, a coffee or a glass of red wine, which we must do one day, Lauren is your lady. Amazing.
It very rarely stops at one though, Joanna. That's half the problem.
I know. I don't think we're going to stop at one. But today, the topic is, are you a shit magnet? The intricate connection between brain, body, and success. Oh my goodness. I love this. I was just saying to Lauren, we had a chat just before we jumped on, and I said, we've been kind of woo-woo a little bit in this series. And we're going to bring a little bit of science into this, and for those that are like, enough of the woo-woo, this is, a few cold hard facts as well. So we're gonna hit up.
Basically, Lauren's a spiritual retard, but that's okay because I bring science into it, and then it's awesome.
Exactly. No, I know you're into mindset so one of the reasons I wanted you on here, obviously because we had so much fun last time, but I remember I used to be an accountant, right? I was super skeptical, and I remember one of my other friends, as I became more woo-woo and into all the mindset stuff, she's like, I wouldn't believe it if it wasn't coming from you, which I thought was really sweet of her. And I think that's what I get from you as well, is that if you're into it, it's going to be good. I think that's where I come from with this. I'm like, I trust whatever you've got to say, man. It's going to be good. But
I like the woo-woo in some respects, but I do find, and this is with total respect to the industry, and I, totally believe it works for a lot of people, but a lot of people use it as a band-aid and as a crutch. And there becomes a point where you got to stop the affirmations in the attraction and start taking some bloody action. And that's going to create things. Because if you sit at the top of the mountain and think about a Porsche, the Porsche doesn't turn up. It just doesn't.
I call that trying to manifest from the couch.
Yes. Well, I know plenty of those people.
I tried. It didn't work. So I've decided I had to go and take a bit of action. But before we get stuck into this conversation, tell us a little bit about who you are, how the heck you got here, and go for it.
Well, I always like to start with the most interesting fact about me, which is I'm one of 63 grandchildren, I figured out today.
Holy
63. Crap. And we're all within a 15-minute radius of one another.
Whoa.
So I have 13 aunties, 13 uncles, 2 parents, 3 siblings, and 60-something.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
That's intense.
Yeah. Also Tasmanian. So for all the Australians on the line, that'll make perfect sense. And I probably, I feel, have the most interesting yet lamest story of how I became successful, in that I was always really smart. And I did really well at school. I got top 5% of Australian students at university. I was bullied really badly in primary school because I was obese. And
no.
Yeah, legit.
Okay. We might have to talk about that.
And I got bulimia to get rid of it. So maybe, not the smartest strategies to get out of it. But I decided at that point, if we're going to talk about strong suits, this is very good, to be really intelligent, because when you're smart, people can't pick your brain, you know, they can't mess with you. So graduated really well from uni, got poached for a company called Accenture, which is one of the highest performing consulting companies in the world. And I did 2 years there before moving on to an international aid organisation called CARE.
Ooh.
And I rolled out an IT system through Australia, Asia and the Pacific. So I designed, tested, deployed and trained that entire system until my partner at the time broke his back. So then I moved back home to Australia to teach him to walk again. And because I'd bought my first house when I was 17 and kind of done all of these things, I was quite financially sound. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just retire and help my boyfriend, you know.
At the right old age of like what?
24.
24, nice.
And then I got called from someone who I'd worked with at Accenture, and they offered me a job with Ernst & Young. So I was so blessed to have grown up in this high performance world of incredibly intelligent people. And I had a 6-figure job at 23, and I had properties, and I was driving a nice car and a full set of Q clothes in my wardrobe. And all I fucking wanted was to get cancer or something. And one day I woke up.
What's your words?
And I was like, I cannot believe that I'm thinking this way. I have everything in my life, everything anyone could want. And I'm so unfulfilled and so unhappy. And then I felt so guilty for being so unhappy because I had everything. Right. And then I just thought, well, this is not what it can be. Like, this is not life. If I'm 24, 25 feeling this way, I've got another 30, 40 years of this. We have to do something. So that's kind of when I started on my process into self-development. But I did go to a few courses, and they were really woo-woo. And coming from this incredibly strategic background and high performance, and you work from 6 a.m. till 4 a.m. the next day, and you just get things done, I couldn't connect, and I felt really distant. So I started studying neuroscience and understanding the difference between male brains and female brains, and why we react and act the way we do, our core function as women, our everything to do with the way I was designed and why I would think this way when I was so blessed. I have the most awesome life. And it was just really fascinating, Joanna.
I love it.
I couldn't put it down. Did you know that the number one fear of women is we are not good enough? And the second biggest fear is we'll be found out to be a fraud. And these 2 fears undercurrent everything we do, which is why we'll nail a meeting and walk out of it and pick to shreds one sentence that we might have misplaced a word. And a bloke will absolutely wing it, totally faff it up, and walk out and high-five his mates and head down to the pub because he thinks he nailed it.
I know. We're great. I remember when I first got to Australia, I got this amazing job at QB, a big insurance company here. And in the first year, I think it was after 6 months, they did a 360 review, right? So anonymously, if all my managers, colleagues, clients within the company got to anonymously tell everybody what they thought about me in this survey. Talk about cringeworthy. And I basically got off the charts ratings. Everyone was like, you've only been in the job 6 months, you're incredible, you're doing all this amazing stuff. One person, who I know who it was, said that I wasn't confident enough in my own abilities and that I should back myself more. And do you think I remember any of those other amazing comments? Not a chance. I'm like, she doesn't think I'm confident enough. And back, I was really offended. I don't know what the rest of that effing survey said, right? But it was all really positive. So I totally get it. We're the worst critics of ourselves. And I love that you don't think you're woo-woo, but this stuff is kind of woo-woo. But
it absolutely is.
Yeah, right? It's crazy. So,
however, if you step away from the woo-woo and you go into the science of it, as women, we naturally second guess ourselves, because our number one dominant coding is caring. Right? So our dominant natural coding. Now, not every woman will experience this due to their life and how it's turned out and their coding that's happened through experience and belief systems and all of that. But our underlying coding is caring. So when you look at how we've developed through time, 100 years ago, if we picked the wrong berries, we killed our family. Now, we don't have those stresses today, but because we had those stresses back then, if we didn't look after our children, they were burning in a fire or drowning in a river or whatever else. So we constantly second guess, and our brain is still wired that way to protect us and those we care about. So because we transfer this archaic brain structure, we're basically still in mammalian days, into a 21st century smartphone environment. We're driving a, first model Ford in a Tesla age, and it just doesn't fit.
I love that analogy. I want to just be in my Tesla, never mind the rest of it, right? Although I do have a really fabulous Ford Fiesta, I have to say. It's green and kind of sporty. I love my car. Don't diss my Ford. No, I'm just kidding. So before we get really deep into some of this stuff, it is the Global Flow series. What does flow mean to you?
Flow for me is a state of progress. So when your mind and body and progress are all moving in the same way, that is a state of flow. So, and for me, because my natural drivers are like action and success, it's when I'm seeing massive growth in either me or my clients or things like that, and I feel like I'm affecting that change.
Okay, I love it. A state of progress. That takes a little bit of the stress out of it, and because I think so many of us are like, and it's come up already in this series, is like, when I get there, then, right? Like this mystical time in the future. But if we actually start going, it's about the progress, it takes so much of the stress out of it, right? It's like, I'm moving forward, I'm not moving backwards. I love that. I just love it.
Even if you are moving backwards, at least you're moving and you can make a change very quickly.
Right? Well, is it you can, like, you've got to take the handbrake off, right? You can actually, so at least if the handbrake's off, you can go backwards or forwards, right? Like, you can, right? That is progress, right? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Handbrake off. So let's go into a little bit. Tell us a bit, actually, before we get into that. What are you? So we've got up to miserable, like not enjoying it, looking for something else, knowing there's more. How did you get from there to where you are today? And tell us a little bit about what you do today.
My standard answer to that is I was really angry. And that's probably not the best energy to come from for a very large life change. But studying so much about the female brain and why we do what we do, and we're going to cells and structure later. I got really frustrated because I'm in Ernst & Young. I'm working with the highest performing women I will probably ever meet. Like, I still in contact with some of them, and they blow my brains. And they
happy? Are they happy?
No, and they won't change anything. You can see why I was getting really angry. So right? I'm like, do something. And then I was like, you can't be here. Like, if you're in that energy and you have this intense need to open up and find opportunity for you and other people around you, you have to open an opportunity where people can find you in that space too. So I actually started Moxie, which is a high performance coaching business for women. And when I started it with 3 branches. So I had Moxie Fit, which was a fitness aspect, because I truly believe to get the most out of your mind, you have to ask your body to perform. They're very, very closely linked. And I actually got a business partner who's still a very dear friend of mine, and she did a personal training certificate and really started working that. Then there's Moxie Life, which is the life coaching, mindset coaching. Moxie as a word means to be courageous, and I spell it with a double X, which is a female chromosome. So Moxie as a word is women with courage. Science.
I'm with you.
And then the last element of Moxie is Moxie Property, and that's where I do all my property development under, and I continue to purchase and develop and renovate my houses, which I'm currently in one of my renovations at the moment, sitting on a bed because I don't have a couch in this one.
I love it. I was kind of wondering, but I love that. So you've got 3 prongs under one company, and you've got another company as well. Tell us a little bit about that.
So that is the most beautiful blessing of a company, because it's a product base, which is a totally different experience that you would know to a brand that is personal and service based. So it's called Tea Garden Co, and we create 3 beautiful new tea blends every month to send to our subscribers. A black tea, a green or oolong, and a herbal. So this month being Valentine's Day, we have a You Are a Turkish to My Delight, which is a Turkish delight too. A blackberry jam, and what's the third one? A raspberry lemonade. So it's like beautiful lemongrass and fruity. And it's really fun because the same principles apply to online business, whether it's service or product. But you can be cheekier with product, and probably it's just different because you don't have that emotional connection to the result. So you can be a bit more energetically diverse, I find.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I want to talk a little bit about that, because why do you think it has to be different? Tell me the difference between those 2 emotional connections, because we've been talking a bit on this series about, I guess, being more yourself in your service-based one. Do you feel like you have an easier license with the products? Just tell me a little bit more about that.
There are 2 completely different feels. So my brand, my personal brand, Moxie, is extremely authentic. I even hate the word authentic because I think it's full of wank factor, but it's, it's real. And I do most of my lives with no makeup on. I swear, I carry on, and I mean a lot of the time. Like, a lot of my clients are like, oh, that was a really hard message to hear. And I'm like, that's because you're being stupid, right? So if you stop being stupid, we won't have this conversation. And it hurts at the time, but when your mum said that to you, it was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah. And I love calling my clients out, and they're like, ooh. And like, I remember one client, she was like, I want to like slap you right now. And I was like, what? Like, are you serious? And it's like, yeah. And then later on I get like, thanks, like a thanks, it's like, but tough love.
Yeah. Well, that's the difference between a coach and a friend, because a friend will be like, sweetheart, you're trying, you're doing the best you can. And the coach will be like, you're full of absolute crap. You haven't done anything. Whereas the tea business has its own energy. Like, it's playful and fun and cute, and it's cheeky, and it's not my personality. Like, I'm fun, but I'm not like cutesy at all. My business partner. I've never done that. No, not at all. Yes. My business partner, if it was up to her, we would have beautiful packaging, amazing stalls at markets, and no money.
Right.
So, it's this really good balance of her bringing out this creativity and this beauty. And it's really good for me as well to see that, and to step out of, you were talking about masculine and feminine energy in another one of these interviews, to step into the feminine energy a bit more and play in that space. And I always will believe, and no matter how much you separate a product business versus a service business, my soul will always be in Moxie. Because it is my passion, my drive, my fury. Whereas Tea Garden's just really fun. Yeah. And delicious.
Yeah. And I think that's where, and I think as women, either stepping out from corporate, going into this online world, mostly women, there are some men on this as well. And we don't want to like exclude them obviously in this conversation. But I guess it would be helpful for them to understand how the heck we think, right?
I'll never understand.
No, sometimes I don't get it either. I'm like, what am I doing? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Chocolate will fix it.
Absolutely. Chocolate or wine will sort me out. Where was I going with this? Oh, yeah. So you mentioned these two, we either feel like we're not enough or we're a fraud. And what I noticed is happening more and more is because we're starting service-based business that are ourselves and our souls, that it becomes personal, right? And this product-based business, you're like, whatever, it's cool. You don't like my tea, it doesn't matter, right? Like, I don't care because I'll find somebody else who likes my tea, right? And like, I don't like black tea anyway. I love green tea, right? So that's me. And you're like, I don't care if you don't like black tea, doesn't affect me, right? But then on the other side, if I'm like, I don't like your business and I think it's crap, on the other side, it's like, oh, dang, that really hurts my soul, right? And so what I find, and I'd love to know your opinion on this, is like, and this has been a personal freaking journey for me. I've learned so much, but I was bringing in too much emotion into my service-based business as a woman. And I've just been thrown in my face a few times. And how do we either take that? Do we take it out? Do we toughen up? Like, how can we move forward when we are these emotional creatures that are like programmed for, what did you say? We're programmed for caring, because I wrote that down. How do we do it?
Well, if there was a pill, I'd be a billionaire by now.
No, I have a magic wand. I don't know about you, but
yeah. Well, my ball is just being polished up to see the future. But
I have one of those.
Oh, good. For me, it's about removing. Okay, I'm going to step back. I have a bit of an issue with connecting with people, and I think it often comes from my childhood and being bullied and not trusting people. So my number one code is I'll do it self. Like, if you burn me, I'm just off and I don't care and I will just get it done. So this is a really negative pattern that I run, right?
At least you're honest.
Yeah, well, if we can't coach ourselves, what's the point, right?
Right.
So for me to get over this, I implemented a lot of KPIs and actually treated my business like a business, because not everyone's going to like you as a person. If you go into a party, 90% of people are going to think you're cool. 10% of people are going to be like, you're the weirdest person on earth, right? And the same is going to happen in your business. So if you start tracking the percentage of people who are appreciating your business, who are responding, who are reacting well, and you have that as a number, and then you track the number who aren't, and you can actually track the trends and look at what's going on. When you take it out of the emotional brain into the logic brain, it gets a lot easier. The challenge sits in the service side of things. I wouldn't want you to take your emotion out of it. The reason my clients are so successful is because I'm buried in their lives and businesses, and they can call me, especially my elites, anytime, and we'll sort through things quickly, and it's because I care. I paid someone $40,000 for a mastermind once, and they didn't answer when I rang because it wasn't the scheduled time once a month to talk, and I could not believe it. I was just like, I've paid you what I consider a substantial amount of money to support me, and you let me call you once a month, and my business has just fallen in a heap, and you don't care. And so that connection, that care connection, is that values-driven attachment that we get as women is so incredibly important. But just from a science perspective, our first brain is the fight or flight brain. So information comes through, and at that point you either run away or you fight that information. So if someone says to you, Joanna, I hate that blog you just put up, the first thing might be to be like, well, you can just get stuffed then, Look at me managing my words.
You don't have to. I don't think anyone's going to be too offended.
And so you might fight, or you might be like, oh, I'm never posting again. People hate me. And then if it can get through that, it goes to your emotion brain, right? So your central brain. And this is where women spend 98% of their time. So what happens in that emotion brain is it connects to all our belief systems and our fears. So the only things that can connect to are things you believe about yourself. So if you call me fat, that'll connect straight away, because I have a history of obesity and all of that sort of stuff. If you say I'm like I have an ugly face, that won't connect anywhere because no one's ever teased me about my face. So I'll just be like, whatever, girlfriend, right? Same happens in your business. So if you believe your business isn't good enough, it's going to connect to that. If you believe you can't write very well, it's going to connect to that. And this is why people say the only things that can hurt you are things that are true.
Ooh, yeah, I'm just writing that down. I'm taking notes, by the way. But I'm writing that one down.
So the only way to get out of that is to retrain those belief systems and those fears in that central brain, or take that information out to the logic brain, which is where data crunching and that kind of thing, even though most of us aren't naturally good at that, not a lot of women are naturally analytical. Yeah. But training yourself to look at data and analyze what's happening actually pulls it up out of there. And you're like, well, 99.4% of people love me. So are we going to pay attention to the 0.6 or are we going to pay attention to the 99.4?
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I do all the time, if anyone makes a nice comment on Facebook, like sort of testimonial type thing, I cut and paste the comment and email. Everything goes into the same folder. And usually for testimonials, for, websites and things like that. But if I need it, I'll go read it and remind myself, because sometimes, we'll have like one, that troll, or like somebody's not happy, and it can really hurt, and if it, obviously now knowing if it's true, or that you're like, it's like your sore point, right? Like it's that thing, like if you're constantly hearing it's too expensive, it's probably because you believe you are. And then as soon as you like own your value, people stop telling you you're too expensive. It's miraculous, right? So I really connect with that. So I like keep the evidence. So it's about creating that evidence, right? So as you can be like, I'm not going to not do this because that one person doesn't like me, even if it did hurt a little bit. But do you not think so? Like it gives you like that signpost of where you need to go next to like sort of
Absolutely. It's, if you're being offended by something, that's your number one indicator that you've got work to do, right? And in reality, like I tell all my clients to do exactly what you were saying just then. I call it their evidence bucket. So when, and someone doesn't even have to hurt your feelings. So do you mind if I give you two kind of things that I do with my clients?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So one is we call it the balls, because it kind of looks like balls. You draw two circles, and in this side, it's what happened, right? So the fact is, someone wrote in and said, Joanna, I hate your email. It was terrible.
I've had those.
It has too many pictures and I just don't like it. And then in the other ball, you write what you made it mean, because everything is attached to a belief system or a fear, right? So what is it attaching to? And there you can actually psychoanalyze yourself in a logical pattern, but accessing your emotional brain. So you write down, I'm not good enough. I can't write. No one's ever going to buy my stuff. I should just get a real job. I suck at life. Why did I even wake up this morning? And you just let yourself go down that rabbit hole of self-pity, but on paper. Because when it's on paper, when you shut your eyes for a moment and open it, you go, that is complete crap, right? So then I go to my clients, which ones do you want to believe? Do you want to believe the facts, or do you want to believe this? And then you can make an intersecting section if you want to, and put a new belief system in there. But I do find that dangerous, because what people say is like, oh, it's their problem. It's actually not their problem. And when we start to do that, that gives our power and authority away. It's like, oh, they're just jealous. They're not jealous. They don't like your writing.
They might be jealous. I have, there's a small chance.
Maybe, but if you keep putting it on that, you're making bullshit stories again, right?
Yeah, of course. No, I see that that's a deflection of owning whatever. Yeah.
So then what can you do about it? You can delete them off your list, which I would expect that you would do if they haven't unsubscribed. You can choose to change your writing style for that one person, which is a very silly choice. Or you can say, well, do they have a point? let's test and measure. So if they're saying, I've got too many pictures, let's test the next 20 emails. We'll do different picture amounts and see what our engagement rate is. And then once again, that's bringing that logic brain in, away with the KPIs, in with the KPIs, away with the emotion. And you can learn from that feedback. And then sometimes people are just crazy.
Yeah, there's that too, right? Like, I've had some crackers, like absolute crackers. And, you know, I've responded differently. I mean, I had one just telling me to fuck off, and I was like, whoa, that was nice to wake up to. And others, I remember one, and she was like, you're really, like, I think you've turned, what did she say?
You've changed.
Cocky or something. Like, she was like, you're really cocky. And I replied, I was like, wow, I've come from like my self-confidence and worth in the toilet, and now I'm being called cocky. I was like, I actually see that as kind of like a win.
Yeah, I'd be pouring wine for that one.
I was like, whoa, and actually it was funny because I actually hadn't written the email myself. It was a team member had written it for me, which was even more hilarious. But we ended up in this conversation with this girl, and I was like, look, hey, I'm just trying to do my best here. I was in the middle of a launch. I was like, I'm sitting here sweating my socks off. I've worked a 12-hour day. I'm trying to do this thing. Like, I'm really sorry if you thought that an email that somebody else wrote was me being a little bit big. Like, what do you, like, there's nothing more I can really do, right? And when I was just so honest with her, she got back to me. She was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, she's like, I just triggered. And she was like really honest. She said, you're doing what I want to do, and I'm really sorry. And I was like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And I was like, feel free to unsubscribe, because tomorrow's email, the title of it is, are you jealous of me? And she came back and she's like, I think I'll stay on. I have something to learn from this.
At least she was aware enough.
Right? Like, I was like, oh, little mini, it was like a little chink, right? It was like a chink. Like, she'd obviously seen something. I was like, and then softened up a bit. So, I mean, that's just one of many of these things that happen. And I always think as well, like, sorry, I'm like rattling on, but you only get that stuff when you're ready for it. Like, and sometimes it annoys me because some of the attacks I've had, if it had happened to me any sooner, I might have given up. And it drives me crazy that people do that, because most people are just trying their best and they want to help people. And, you know, it's just these unfortunate people that are, you know, lashing out. And if I hadn't been more sure of myself, or if I hadn't been further down the path, it might have rocked me enough to not go on. And that kind of thing drives me nuts. I'm like, I'm almost glad it happened to me and not someone else or one of my clients or something. So yeah, have you seen much of that going on with you or your clients? Or I'm kind of curious, but you know, it's part of the darker side of the industry that I haven't talked about yet in this series. So
it happens to me a lot.
Cool.
So I'm extremely honest. Like, I'll be like, you know, when I started Moxie, I lost $250,000. And, you know, for a lot of people, they do the short intake of breath and they're like, holy crap, that's more money than I've ever seen. And I'm like, yeah, but I had it, you know, and that's the problem. Right. I had it and I didn't trust myself, and I hired copywriters and designers and marketing people and everything. And I didn't have a brand name, a reputation, or a clear idea of what the hell I was doing. Right. So all of these things compounded into me losing all this money. And then I got a $40,000 fine, and then I was broke for the first time in my life. Yeah, just one of the properties I bought.
Story,
anyway, so that was the biggest blessing that I've ever had in my life.
Wow.
Because I made $100,000 in sales in the next 3 months to get myself out of that hole, and I'd never done that in my life. I'd never been in a position where I back into a wall, because people do things for two reasons. And one's to move away from pain, and the other is towards pleasure. But away from pain is shit tons more powerful. So that level of pain of going completely and utterly broke from a standing start of quite a wealthy base, you know, I had to sell properties, I had to do heaps of stuff. Like, so I talk about this often. And I'm just like, there comes a point when you have to either acknowledge that you are a bitch shit and just love that. You know, if you don't want to step up, if you don't want to grow out of this, stop pushing yourself to do things and making yourself feel inadequate. Love your space. Love where you are. Embrace that you like to drink wine and watch TV at the end of the day and not go to the gym. I don't freaking care. But what I need you to do is love your space, love where you're at. And I get heaps of hatred for that. So I wrote an article once about a girl who was in a coffee shop and she was eating a banana. She was quite large and she was eating a banana bread, waiting for a bacon and egg roll. And she was complaining to her girlfriend that she couldn't lose weight and she's trying everything and nothing's working. And her girlfriend's placating her. You're doing, darling, you're doing a lovely job. You're trying so hard. I can see you're trying. And I'm sitting there going, you're eating a piece of banana bread before your breakfast. You're not trying hard. I'm not mad at you. I love banana bread. But as a friend, it is not your job to placate someone. If you truly love that person, you want the most for them. If they're complaining about their weight, they want to do something about it, right? And you giving them permission to ask less of themselves, is that true friendship? And I was talking about this because this is a personal struggle that I'd experienced, but not everyone knows my story. And I got legitimately pages of emails, fat shaming, you're a rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, at no point did I say that woman was not beautiful or powerful or intelligent. I never fat shamed at all. I was just asking, as a friend, is our job to let people be less than they want to be, or is it a friend someone who asks you to step up into your genius? Like that was the conversation. But people read things according to their triggers, just like you said earlier.
Of course. And I've seen things, it's like, I've even had clients be like, when you said this, it changed my life. And I was like, I don't think I said that. Like,
that wasn't even the smart thing.
I'm like, legit, I don't think that's what I said. But if that's what you thought I said and it helped, then great, right? Because, you know, and we literally have these filters on our brains, and two people can see the same conversation completely differently. And that's genuinely true to them. You know, it's like when two people are getting divorced and they're both telling the lawyer the truth as they see it. It's just, it was the same situation from these completely different angles and filters. Yeah. So when I realized that, I was like, oh, wow, that's really crazy. So we're just all seeing things from different perspectives. And it's like the different colors of glasses, right? Like rose ones and, you know, purple ones. And we're all like, yeah, depending on our triggers.
The problem is though, Joanna, for me,
tell me
with that, we all have an ego, right? And the ego is the need to look good and be right. We're going heinously over time.
Oh, no, we're not. We're fine.
And that need to look good and be right is based on our experiences, belief systems, etc. So, you know, you turning up late to a meeting might offend someone dramatically because they think that's disrespectful, you don't care about my time, and they might never listen to a word you say because you are 32 seconds late to a meeting. Whereas you as a coach might go, you know what? My job is to be centered and prepared for this call and open the space to receive whatever my client is going to give me. So I need an extra 30 seconds to make that phone call. So your look good and be right is to provide the space. Their look good and be right is to turn up on time. You were 32 seconds late. You were both on 9 o'clock on the dot, but you now have completely different attitudes towards that conversation. And the more you become aware of this, you watch conversations, you're like, oh my goodness, look at the ego. Like, and I know we naturally think of ego as like men with their hands behind their back and their legs wide open. But women have a huge ego because we have all this coding around you need to look after people and care for people, and you got to put your kids first and all this stuff, which is rules for womanhood. And it's just, whew. But the worst part is the more you get to know it, the more you have to take ownership for it and control the situation. And then you're like, damn it, I just want someone else to look after me because I'm the one being in control. And
right. It does. I have one client, I'll very short, but she, we had one of our mastermind retreats, and she was like, so can you just send me the agenda through for the retreat, please? Like just A-type control.
I have one of these. It's amazing. It's so good for
I love her to bits, right? And I was like, hi, there is no agenda. you will get exactly what you need, right? Because I was like, I want to run this, like, if we need more time in one area, I don't want to be held to somebody being like, you said it was break time at 12:15, right? I was like, no, none of that. And I was like, I know you hate this, that there isn't an agenda, but it's good for you. And she was like, you know me so well, you're so right. Yes, I hate it, but I'm willing to accept that maybe I need to change. And I was like, yes. It was perfect. We had a great time and she got exactly what she needed, right?
Yeah.
So as well as that little lesson, right? Because I knew it was going to drive her crazy, like just the way she is. And because I like told her I knew it was going to drive her crazy, I think it made it less bad. But anyway, so sorry, I'm like, I need to ask you a question. So you said that I want to know a little bit more about the sciencey stuff, right? So women naturally lack the courage found in our testosterone-driven male counterparts. Mm-hmm. Tell me a bit more about that. Are we literally like? Cause I think like I've had to like learn to be more courageous. What the heck? They have an advantage over us. I don't like that.
They have a massive advantage. So there are so many elements of the science here. So very simply, from a base physiological level, they have a bigger heart, bigger lungs, bigger muscles, right?
Okay.
And then something called neurocardiology. Have you heard of it?
I actually haven't, no.
Excellent. Oh, this is going to be exciting. It's going to blow your brain. This is probably one of my favorites. Neurocardiology is the ability of the heart to communicate to someone else's heart. So every organ in our body, you've heard of it?
I've heard a few stories. I've done a little bit on this, like, you can actually connect. Anyway, go on. You explain.
No. So every organ in our body has an electromagnetic field. And the heart's is 8 meters either way. So anyone within 8 meters can feel how you feel, which is why you can walk into a room and be like, I don't like that person. I don't know why. I don't know their name. I don't know who they are. I don't like them. And that might be because they are uncomfortable, they're feeling shady, maybe they did something that doesn't align to your values that day, and that's coming through in their communication with you. Because your heart communicates 16 times faster to your brain than your brain does to your heart.
Okay. Yeah.
So when someone in authority, say like a cop walks in a room, our hearts automatically align to theirs. Right? Because they are the authority in the room. So because we're all taught to respect cops, except in Australia, we are naturally going to go, all right, they're important, we'll listen to them. And our heartbeat aligns with their heartbeat and our intensity aligns with their intensity, and the whole room will ebb and flow according to what that cop's talking about. Same thing will happen with a boss. Caveat, people must respect that boss. Like if there's no respect, no one's going to align, right? You'd experience it when you speak on stage. People will, you can get excited and the whole room will lift because your heart's being like, this is amazing. And people around you are like, oh, it's amazing. And Tony Robbins is probably the best at it in the world.
I love Tony. Yeah.
Everyone loves Tony.
Not everybody loves Tony. My brother-in-law hates Tony, but
really,
we'll not get into it. But yeah,
no. So women don't have as much control because men's hearts are bigger. They have stronger messages, right? So based on our physiological makeup alone, not even going into our hormones and chemicals, men have a leg up. Which is why women have to control themselves so much more because our heart only communicates clearly if we're stable, which, can be quite difficult.
Okay. Tiny differentiator. Okay.
Right? So if you're excited.
Fine, right? That's why they're fine. Right?
Yeah. Half pissed to all meetings. I don't recommend that as a strategy.
No, but sometimes for a little bit of courage, it works wonders.
It does. Because if your heart is beating at 1,000,000 miles an hour and you're nervous and stressed and you're, your heart can't send a message out because it's too busy trying to pump blood through your system,
Okay.
And this is completely linked to emotions and cells as well. So if you think about the way we receive, perceive, and send information as a pendulum, when you're down the middle, that's when your heart's beating normally, you're comfortable, you're breathing normally, and you're able to communicate. Mm-hmm. When you're up high and you're squealing and carrying on and only the dogs can understand what you're saying, you can't make a decision and you can't communicate because you can't see the negatives of any situation. So something in your environment is going to bring you back down to center, right? Like, so you might get an email from someone who doesn't like you, or you might have a moment of self-doubt. Like, it doesn't always have to be external. Sometimes it's internal, right? And the problem is you don't stop at neutral. Normally you go screaming down to self-loathing. At which point your heart won't beat fast enough and you'll send out these kind of messages to the world because no one can hear or feel what you're saying because it's muted by the fact your heart is so slow and nothing is coming out clearly. So then something in your environment will turn up to make you happy again, right? Someone will go, oh, Jo, you did great in that meeting. And you're like, oh my goodness, I'm amazed. And you'll fling right back up to right. And this is why it's so exhausting to be a woman, because our chemical and hormone balance does this, whereas testosterone keeps them here.
Interesting. Oh, okay.
So estrogen is an absolute bitch.
But we were talking about, like, it's actually different, the phases of a woman's cycle.
Absolutely.
And flow, and like we're just incapable at some times of the month doing stuff, like, of sometimes acting rationally, some might say. I'd like to think I don't fall into that bucket, but I don't know. We're not always our best judges, right? But yeah, we're actually just better. We function better doing certain things. Like, we're more creative at certain times in the month. We're more, we literally need to nurture ourselves at different times of the month. And yeah, so I love that, it's like we're physically designed differently, as well as with all these different chemicals in the heart. Like, this is fascinating. So tell me a little bit about, are you okay for a few extra minutes? I know we might go a couple minutes over. Is that okay?
As the moment you shut me down, I'll be quiet. Until then, I will just keep talking.
Okay. So a few more minutes. I do have another interview, actually. Gosh, I should probably check the time of that. I don't want to be like, blah, 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 2 hours later. Okay. So I do have another interview, so we can't go too long. But tell me a little bit about, so the number one thing holding women back from success, is that the fraud thing and the not enoughness? So what about these layers of the brain? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
The fight or flight logic and belief.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then you've got, in amongst all of that, so some of the ways that women have morphed over the years is quite terrifying. So in the beginning of time, we didn't have to deal with the stresses that we do now. And when I say beginning of time, I'm talking like 100 years ago.
Okay.
When you look at the morphing of our brain in the last 100 years compared to our role, right? So originally the role of a woman was to know where things were, cook, provide, do everything like that, give birth, whereas now we're required to do a shit ton of other things, but have none of the original fears that we had. Like, we're not going to kill our kids unless we do something real bad, we're unlikely to get fired because most of us over-deliver naturally. And because of that, we take less action. And I know that sounds weird, but we do things mechanically, like get up, train, go to work, do the things. So we're relying more on routine and less on action. And the problem with that is we have so much more space for fear, because fear breeds in the space of inaction. We have so much potential.
Tweetable.
We have tweetable. We have unlimited potential, and now we know it. 100 years ago, we didn't know it. We just had our role. My grandma had to travel 6 weeks to meet her mother-in-law on a boat, you know, now we just Skype or Zoom, right?
Yeah.
So we have all of these pressures. And so our brain, instead of going from motivated idea, like cook dinner, to action, like cook dinner, it goes motivated idea, let's go exercise, sit on couch because can't be bothered, apathy, right? So instead of the straight line between decision, action, our brains have now developed decision to apathy. Because there's so much complex information in our environment. So a woman will come to you and go, Joe, I've got this amazing idea. I want to start this amazing business and I want to earn $100,000 a day and I want to do it from home and I don't want to do any work. Let's do it.
I've had a few people tell me that.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Because Facebook said they could do it, right?
Yeah. That one person, it looked like they managed it. But.
Yeah. No. So now they do that and they never take any action, and then they build all this evidence that everything's too hard, right? And because of the belief systems and the fears that come through that and the logical evidence that they think that they have, but they never actually did the work to get the evidence. And you understand that, right?
Oh, I'm with you, girl.
I can't save money. You've never tried, but I've thought about it. That's because you went from decision to apathy.
I love it. I've got it right. I'm taking some good notes. Decision to apathy. I mean, it's so true. Like, and quite often that's the question I ask people. I'm like, is that true? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, really? And they're like, maybe. Oh, no.
It's true to my friends at the bar.
Yeah, it seems true.
That's why they call me Velvet Sledgehammer, because I'm like,
right? You're just like,
nope.
No. Okay.
This is what you're doing. This is what you need to do.
Yes. Okay. So let's get super technical, right? We've gone into science world. I've learned some stuff. What are some of the tangible, actual things we can do to help get over, as women, sorry guys, our programming to actually have the courage to do more and take action?
Yep. So there's a lot of things, but short on time. Every 3 months, I take my mastermind girls away and we deep dive into their mindset. So we write down the goals that they're trying to achieve at the moment, the actions that they're doing, and then we write down every bullshit story that comes up. Like, I'm tired, my back hurts, I've got no money, whatever you're telling yourself. And that is a really clear identifier to your core belief systems and your subsequent anchors on your success. So if you can start, and it's painful. It's like lifting weights. The first time you do it, you go home and you want to die, right? You just lie on your bed and think, I'm never going to be able to walk again. And then you have to wee. And that's just a whole nother concept of terror because you might not be able to stand.
Right. I started CrossFit like 2 weeks ago and I had that thing. I'm like, I don't know if I can stand up if I sit down.
Right. And that's what training your brain is like, because you've had 80,000 thoughts a day your entire life since you formed speech, right? 60,000 of those are negative, and of those thoughts, at least 80% reoccur. So they're not once-off thoughts, right? So if you think about that, you've had millions and millions of thoughts that you're not good enough. So just writing down, I'm good enough, enough, because your brain doesn't believe it. It's like, that's so far from what is true for me. So you've got to take small steps, right? So so once you've identified your core negative belief systems, this is going to be a 10 to 20 year journey, but the decision is now. You can then, put in a step change. So you go from, I'm not good enough to, you know what, I'm willing to learn. And then every time you come up against something, if you can add a physical trigger, which is where the tapping comes in and things like that, that's even better. So if you go, I'm willing to learn, or, yep, this is happening, or whatever your new pattern's going to be, if you can add a physical element as well as a verbal element, as well as some kind of other anchor, like a smell or a sound, you are going to be a million times better. And it will take time, and that old belief system will turn into a rocky path as the new highway of self-belief is built. But once you've got that down pat, then you've got to go again, because being willing to learn isn't good enough. Then you've got to be a boss, you know, and it's just one step after a time. And then, you know, that's the foundation of retraining the brain. People make it sound really fancy in marketing language, but really that's the foundation, and it's bloody hard work, but it is worth every step of the way.
Oh, isn't it? It so is.
Yeah.
I want to ask you one more question. Maybe, yeah, I think with time is one more question. What the heck drives you? It's popped into my head. I'm like, you are so driven. Like, you work out like a demon. You do some crazy stuff. And we've had a chat. We could do a whole episode. I'm sorry, starting a podcast. You'll have to come on that. But we do a whole episode on like what you do, like workout wise and all the rest of it, and your eating habits, and everything is like so on it. What the heck drives you?
It's normal. To me, it's normal. It's a combination of a few things. One, I lived a really inadequate life mentally for a really, really, really long time. And, you know, when you get to a point that you want cancer or something, we've wasted a lot of years. Yeah. And I know I'm only 30 now, and I was only 24 when I quit my job. But you are given one life, and it is an absolute blessing every single friggin' day. And if not, I'm not going to wring every ounce of juice out of my life. I would rather do all of this crazy stuff and die a broke, you know, mildly insane geriatric, knowing that I gave it a good shove. And progress is my absolute driver. I don't care if you're better than me. I don't care if you earn more than me. I don't care if you lift more than me. I care that we can strive to do things bigger, better, stronger, faster together within our values, you know, and that's why I connected to you, because I really love what you do. And I stalk people like a boss, and I'm really, really anally retentive with who I connect with, because I have to be able to contribute. And I believe you're the top 5 people you hang around with divided by 5, which is a Jim Rohn quote. But I flip it. So if I want to hang out with you, Joanna, who do I have to be for you to want to hang out with me? If I want to touch Marie Forleo's hair, who do I have to be that Marie Forleo calls me and says, come stroke my hair?
I know. You know? She has such good hair.
She has the best hair in the entire world. But I'm not always motivated, and I'm not always good. Some days I have absolute shit days, and I tell my clients, you're allowed to, but what you have is a filth window. So you're allowed to sit in your filth, but you give yourself a time limit. You're not allowed to just wallow in it for days or weeks or months. You go, all right, I'm going to be miserable and shit till 5 o'clock, and then 5 minutes. And that's the rule. You just do it for 5 minutes. If you still feel shit after 5, let that one go. That's okay. But most of the time, once you're over the initial hurdle, 5 minutes is long enough to get the momentum back. So progress is my motivator.
I love it. Oh, so good, so good. I mean, we could sit and talk probably for the rest of the evening, but we've both, well, I have another interview and you have stuff to do.
A wake to go to.
A wake. Yeah, sorry. For anyone else, her 94-year-old grandpa died today, or funeral, right? So some people, like we've been talking about, are going to love you. Some people are going to be like, who is that crazy woman? Right?
Both of you email me.
I know, right? It will be fun, right? And then, because I now use them as examples, I usually like cut and paste and like pop them up online. It's because I'm now at the place I can find it kind of funny once I'm over the okay.
Well,
so
my theory is if you're wiping your ass with $100 bills, people don't offend you. So once you've got the success behind you, things aren't that offensive. They're like, you suck. And you're like, all right, tell that to my business and clients.
Yeah, like
I love you for that effort.
Yeah, I'll drink to that, right? I'll have a anyway. So the guys who think you're the bomb, where do they go to find you and follow you, and where do you hang out most?
Moxie on Facebook. So MOXXI group on Facebook.
Brilliant.
And then my website is moxiegroup.com. You can head over there and subscribe for newsletters, updates, offers, all that sexy stuff. And yeah, come chat to me on Facebook.
Yeah, and there's an awesome free gift you have for everybody. We're going to have it hooked up below, but can you just tell us a little bit about that?
It's an interactive ebook called Permission Granted to Live the Life, Fearlessly Create the Life You Want. And the reason it's interactive is because I'm really action oriented, and I don't want you to just read it and be like, that's nice, Lauren. It's also hilarious because I consider myself quite funny, and it's going to work you through purpose, values, core beliefs, your anchors, your fears, and then designing the life you want. And then I talk heaps about the science of like that pendulum, and we didn't even go into cellular structure, which is hilarious. Go into that in the book as well.
I know. I was like, I don't even know if I can ask you that because it would be a whole nother thing. And I'm so curious about it. Can you give us it in like a minute?
Yep. Okay. So as we develop, our cells create negative and positive receptors. And as we're growing, they split in half. The more shit you're surrounded by, the more negative receptors you create, which means your body needs to feed those receptors. So if you're surrounded by a lot of negativity, either in your head or in your environment, you're going to have a butt ton of negative receptors in your body, which is going to make you ruin things and pick fights. And, you know, just when things are looking sweet, you'll get a $100,000 fine or a parking fine, or you'll get dumped or something, because your cells are starving. And so they need to create some kind of drama, which is that quantum physics force.
The drama addiction, right? Like I've been talking a lot about that recently. I'm like, I didn't realize I was addicted. And then I did the thing. I'm like, oh shit, I'm addicted to drama. And this whole year for me is about how can I show up without drama?
Cleansing. Yeah. Yep.
But it's like, how do we get less negative cells?
You have to starve them. So once again, really painful. So you have to acknowledge that you have an issue, which is the first step to always curing. And then, when you feel that, say, thank you. I know you need to be fed, but my choice today is to be grateful, or whatever you're choosing. And then you'll starve those negative receptors and you'll build more happiness ones. But you do have to stay somewhere in the middle, because you'll sometimes meet these people that are just a happiness cell and they are so annoying you want to punch them in the face.
Right. I'm like, are you for real? Right.
Yeah. No one likes you. Go away. So you want to be somewhere able to see good, able to see bad. Okay. I don't want you to die on the inside and become a robot, but I do, you know, once you can build that separation to your pendulum of emotion, you're going to cellularly become more centered and develop stronger messages, stronger productivity, stronger output, and stop that I'm not good enough cycle that we tend to go through.
Okay, so we all need to go on a drama detox, eliminate the negative receptor thingies, and life will be easier.
Yeah, just throw your TV out a window. That's a really good start.
I don't have one. I don't
either.
I haven't had a TV for years.
Oh, I love you. You just went up the girl fan list. Woo.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm also homeless, but that's beside the point. Digital nomad by choice. But even when in my last home, I actually used my TV as my giant computer screen because I was like, I don't watch this thing anymore. I'm not saying I don't have Netflix though. I'm not going to.
See, that is a complete cop-out, Joanna. I don't have TV, but I do have Netflix. Just because it's not on a television screen doesn't mean it's not
I watched
TV.
The documentaries.
Whatever. Documentaries of Mr. Grey and his love exploits.
And Outlander. I don't know. If you haven't had to check it out, I would highly recommend it.
No. My dad threw a hammer through our television when I was 7. And I haven't had one since.
I actually don't know where I'd have the time, to be honest. But anyway, gotta run.
Bye. Love you
so much. This has been a blast. And I'm looking forward to connecting more soon. Thank you, again, Lauren. Appreciate it.
Thanks everyone for watching, and congratulations. This summit's truly fabulous.
We're on it.